said, we have an awesome student leader who I'm so excited to introduce. I just heard that he was actually the president of his class at Coral Glades, and would love to introduce Kassim, who I met at a meet and greet and was blown away by the way that he interacted with people, how involved he was in the community. And I really want to engage him and ask him questions on how we can work together or how we can pull youth into everything that we're doing in the city. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Sinan introduce himself. So come on in.
Thank you so much. Hi.
How are you? So
great.
Could you go ahead and introduce yourself and
Absolutely.
Tell us about you?
Absolutely. By the way, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to you and also your incredible team. And my name is Sinan Kassim.
Sorry, Sinan Kassim. I apologize, Sinan Kassim.
No problem at all. So my name is Sinan Kassim. Ever since 6th grade, I've been involved in student government. Currently, I'm very involved in the Key Club. I'm involved in speech and debate, where we travel across the country to spread a positive message about domestic issues, international issues, but particularly you brought up about student government. I think that's awesome because we're able to be involved in community activities. As I've been the president of the club, not only in middle school in my final year, but also this year. Thank you. So I'd like to keep it very involved in the community, and try to help and uplift people, try to help and be a voice for the younger generation as well. And I think that this platform is amazing. So thank you so much.
And thank you for being here. So as a youth, as an activist, as a leader, how can we engage the youth of today in more civic engagement and just really getting them more involved? I know this is the time of technology and people want to be plugged into their phones and social media. How can we get them more focused in the community and actually lead some of the initiatives here in Coral Springs?
Right.
For example, Coral Springs has a huge, it's brought to my attention, there's some recycling issues here. And the last forum I had discussed that having youth like you really lead that initiative through a cooperative and educate us on how we can better recycle. So what are some things that you guys or youth can help us and how we can learn from you?
Right. And I think that's an amazing question because it is the younger generation that's going to lead the business side of climate change. It's the younger generation that's been through, sadly, the most school shootings. It is this generation that is going to be using social media for major social change as a platform like we are right now. So to address your question more specifically, I think that allowing the younger generation to help in leading programs like the recycling program, allowing it to be more engaged, using social media as a platform. And events just like what we're doing right now, I think is all great ways to do that. And I think that in particular, it is the younger generation. We're seeing where more protests, more activism is being encouraged because of this generation. And if you look back in history, revolutions and movements has been what has been the spark of our country. That has ignited the American spirit, and especially in municipal government as well. And if you look back to Martin Luther King Jr. in civil rights, Susan B. Anthony in women's rights, John F. Kennedy in African Americans, the right to vote, and going into space, FDR in economic recovery. So we're going back to that era of major movements and revolution and change through activism. And that's so important. And I think putting the younger generation in those positions is the best way to have a intergenerational alliance, right? Between the older generation and the younger generation together, leading that movement together. I think that's important.
And I'm so happy you touched on that, the intergenerational alliance. And that's a program that I will be initiating with our seniors, so we are able to learn from each other and move forward. And you guys can get some great service hours, right?
Absolutely.
So that's something that I think that implementation needs to happen. Another thing that I think would be great is around outreach. You guys know where the teams are. You guys know where all the great spaces are. And if you can really plug into those spaces, ask questions, how we can be better, something that I've been hearing a lot throughout while I've been canvassing is there's no spaces here in Coral Springs for teens to have fun. When I was here back in '06, when I was a teenager in '06, we had the teen center, and I've heard different stories on why the teen center is no longer here, but that's something I would love to implement again. And I don't want to revamp something old. What's some advice how I can better revamp that and make it cool in the 21st century? Off the back of my head, I think of technology. What is something that's cost effective but is able to bring youth and gravitate youth to this space?
Right, and that's so important. Bringing the younger generation together, especially in our city, right? And it's important also to realize that, especially in the 21st century, how we can do that, because we're heading into an information revolution, where before World War II, information multiplied every 100 years. Afterwards, it was every 50 years. Today, it's every single minute, and by the year 2020, it's going to be every single second. So the need for a knowledge society where we can all come together, especially as a younger generation, an intergenerational alliance, to share our expertise and our thoughts and coming together is so important. So I think the Teen Center would be a great idea. I think meeting in places just like this to have awareness about issues or coming together for different programs, and also using technology. I think that's so important. Maybe even going to the senior center and teaching seniors about technology, about computers. I think that's a great way, about how to use social media. I remember I was teaching my grandma how to use Snapchat, and she uses it all the time now. I think that's so important because that's what it's about. That's the intergenerational alliance, is using the skills of tomorrow to help the older generation to bring that gap together.
Now, we can shoot out all these ideas. Do you think the youth would be open to doing that? Coming in and giving up their time. Again, we are in a place where it's cool to be in front of your phones all the time. How can we make sure, or how are we going to attract those people to do this kind of work? I know service hours is great, but beyond service hours, how can we keep them engaged?
Right, and I think that the youth, younger generation has to feel also that they're making a difference, that they're making a contribution, and that they feel that they're in a role where they can make a major difference. I think first thing that we have to realize is that having a younger mayor would be a first step in doing that. A lot of more energy, a lot of engaging. I think going directly to the students in the schools. I think using social media and not marketing these the programs, the younger generational programs, as just for community service, but also making it in a way where it's an opportunity to make a difference. Because I think that a lot of my friends, a lot of the younger generation are also looking for ways to make a difference in the community, are looking for ways to make the world a better place, to feel like they are in control and in the driver's seat of feeling and seeing that impact in intangibility. So through these platforms and bringing it directly to schools and communities would be a great way to do that.
I love that idea. So it's safe to say you like Mayor Monday.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's an amazing idea. I love the concept. The first time you brought it up, I think that was phenomenal, and that's a first step in bringing both generations together to talk about these ideas.
Awesome. And one more question for you. Lastly, as I embark this journey, what is some advice as a young person that you would give to me and some of you young people who want to be like you and participate in debate and be an activist and be a leader in their community? What is some advice that you could give to them? But me first, and then the youth.
Absolutely. So I think you're doing a phenomenal job already in bringing together both generations. The Mayor Monday idea, and again, having a younger mayor be in office would be a phenomenal thing for the city of Coral Springs. And cities all across our state would be a great thing, because I think that your agenda in the environment in particular, I think that will allow Coral Springs to lead in the 21st century. Because we look at things like renewable energy, solar panel implementation, wind energy, all ways that we can lead a better as soon because the environmental risks that we're seeing today are something that need to be addressed right now, and we can't wait for the younger generation to grow up and fix those problems. So I think if we start that now, we can bring that generation together to fix that as well. So I think you're doing a phenomenal job bringing that issue to the center of your campaign. And that's the main thing. I think continuously, trying to bring people together, uplifting people, and focusing on the younger generation is all that we can do. Is the most that we can do to do that. So you're already doing a phenomenal job in that way.
Thank you. And now some advice to some youth that would love to follow in your footsteps or just really want to take on some leadership activism.
Right.
And what is some ways for them to get involved and
right.
and kind of be similar, do similar to what you're doing.
Right. So my advice would be that everyone has their passion and something that they love to do. Right. And so in finding what that is, for me, it's my overall purpose of making the world a better place, of leaving behind the world better than I came into it. And so finding your purpose, finding what you're passionate about, and finding something that you would wake up in the morning to go and do to change the world. And that can be in any way. It can be in arts, it can be in cooking, it can be in anything that you're interested in, and then finding opportunities that match that. For me, in public speaking through speech and debate. Thank you.
So
good. Thank you. In student government, through community activism, through engagement. So finding what that is, and then using that opportunity and using that niche, whether it's starting something, whether it's joining a club, but being so passionate and so engaging in that and transformative that you'd be able to really feel you're making that kind of difference.
Well, that is very inspiring, and you give me hope because you are the future generation. And if we have thousands of you out there, I know that will be okay. So thank you so much, Mr. Kassim.
Thank you so much
for being here this evening.
Thank you.
And really appreciate you taking the time to really engage with me and to our viewers who logged in this evening. And if you have any questions for any of our speakers this evening, please feel free to leave a comment, and then we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But without further ado, this wraps up Mayor Monday. I want to go ahead and plug in a last request for you all to go out to vote tomorrow. Polls are open at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Vote Metayer for mayor, Nancy Metayer for mayor, tomorrow, March 12th. Thank you so much for being here this evening, and looking forward to speaking to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.